This is Genuine Connections, featuring collaborative conversations about community, content, creativity, commerce, and the convergence of media and marketing.
Hi, I'm Matt Wurst, CMO at Genuine, and welcome to this episode of Genuine Connections, where we'll be joined by one of the sharpest, most strategic minds in this emerging AI economy. She's someone who's been predicting and explaining the biggest shifts in media and marketing for nearly 2 decades. I first met Debra when we were building early social media into a marketing experience and ecosystem as well. And now she's become a leading expert in just yet the latest digital trend and really revolution. Before founding Sonata Insights, Debra Aho Williamson spent 20 years as a lead analyst at eMarketer, where she wrote more than 120 reports on digital platforms, social media, usage trends, advertising behavior, and really the evolution of online consumer interaction. And during that time, she helped marketers, agencies, platforms, startups, investors understand not just what was changing, but why it matters. Debra was early to spot the power of social, early to articulate how digital discovery was going to reshape search and advertising. And now today, she's leading the industry conversation about how AI is redefining the rules of media and engagement. I read her stuff religiously. Her work, including her newsletter, The AI Ad Economy, which you should all go follow on LinkedIn, helps brands understand how people are using AI to discover and evaluate and decide what that means for the future of marketing and advertising. And in her newest research, which we'll talk to her about, she challenges this old notion that organic and paid media live on separate planes and separate clocks. She's showing how AI environments are collapsing discovery and decision into one place, and how brands have to rethink credibility and authority and performance in an age where answers, not clicks, will drive outcomes, something that we talk a lot about at Genuine. Now, she advises companies on how to blend organic presence with AI advertising, how trust, another topic that we love, how that becomes performance currency, and what marketers need to do now if they want to lead rather than follow in this next era. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Debra Aho Williamson. Hi, Debbie. Welcome to Genuine Connections. So grateful to have you here with us. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. And it's really great to catch up with you because it's been a while, right?
It's been a minute. Certainly in the digital marketing media life cycle here, we've probably been through we missed Web3. We didn't get to catch up during that phase. The metaverse, I don't think we caught up during, but now really substantial movement that's happening. So I'm glad you're here because you are at the forefront as both an analyst and a thought leader. So I'm excited to jump in with you. Are you ready?
I am ready. Let's go.
Okay. You've been at the center of multiple digital revolutions, from really ad-supported web to social, which is how you and I first met, to now really the AI transformation. Is there anything about this moment, this shift as we kick off, that's different than anything you've felt, seen, or experienced so far?
Yes. The pace of change is so much faster because AI. AI moves fast.
Right.
And if you look back at what we were capable of doing with AI and what even the experience as a consumer of using a platform like ChatGPT was even a year ago to what it looks like now, things are moving so quickly. So I would say that is probably the biggest differentiation from the digital transformations I've seen before, is that everything is moving very, very quickly. And the marketing community, we're always racing to catch up with the latest and greatest. And I think the challenges are even bigger with AI than they were in any of the previous eras that I've been involved in.
And maybe this episode needs an expiration date because it's all going to be outdated in like 6 weeks anyway. But when you think about that consumer behavior, which is something I know that you've been consistently tracking throughout, what are the clearest signals that AI as an umbrella term is already shaping how people discover and evaluate and even buy things.
Yeah, I mean, so much to unpack there. So I think the best thing is to do is to start with how I think about AI. And you're exactly right. The conversation, I mean, AI isn't new. It's, decades old. We've seen
Mhm.
AI being integrated into everything from, Google Maps to Netflix algorithm, recommendations on the back end. Things that maybe consumers weren't necessarily engaged with or realizing that they were using AI, but clearly AI has been, and machine learning along with it, has been part of the foundation of a
Yeah.
lot of the great technological advances that we've seen over the past years. Um, where I really draw my attention, and thank you for pointing out the consumer angle, because basically everything that I do when I research and when I think about a new technology or a new digital transformation moment is I start with a perspective of a consumer and what is their experience and how are they interacting and are wanting to engage with it and how are they wanting to use this as part of their life, making a choice to do it. Not like in Netflix where you're kind of looking through Netflix and the algorithm is showing you certain things and it's AI that's driving that, but you as a consumer don't really know that.
Yeah.
You are in this case actively saying, I'm going to go to ChatGPT because I'm planning a trip to, as I am, Yuma, Arizona to go catch up with some friends in a couple of weeks. I've never been to Yuma, Arizona. I could go to Google, but hey, I'd rather go to ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, tell me about Yuma, Arizona. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about AI and the digital transformation associated with AI. It's really about how are consumers using AI, and how do marketers fit into that conversation.
Well, and there are tools that obviously are happening behind the scenes from both a development and curation perspective, in addition to the creation that we've talked about, that and I think this is somewhat new from an AI perspective, because you're right, it's been around in a lot of different iterations, but sometimes it was over here in some group that was doing something interesting or maybe not so interesting but important. Now it has become pervasive in all aspects of business. But from a marketer perspective, I go back and forth on this, but do we think that marketers are ahead of consumers on AI adoption or mostly reacting to what consumers are already doing?
Yes. Okay,
Okay.
yes. So yes and yes. When ChatGPT was launched in 2022 into 2023, you started to see just a little bit of consumer usage of it, but a whole lot of kind of marketing industry awareness of AI and what it could do. So I look at the years like 2023 and 2024 as times where marketers spent a lot of effort, good, valuable effort, thinking about how to use AI inside their organization
Mhm.
to make their marketing processes better, faster, more efficient, more integrated into what they're doing in their daily lives as business people. And those are valuable things to think about. But what I worried about already back in those earliest days was, okay, well, don't forget to think about what's going on outside of your company and how your external marketing also needs to change because consumers are going to be using these tools more and more. I mean, I knew this a couple years ago just from seeing what was out there. And so I think marketers were ahead of consumers in that they were already focused internally for the past several years. Very smart, again, very wise to figure out how to use AI to orchestrate your marketing, to improve and make it more efficient. We're seeing lots and lots of great use cases for that. But what I didn't want companies to forget is that the consumer behavior was going to start ramping up. And it was early, right? A couple of years ago, we saw, a few people like early adopters going into ChatGPT and kind of poking around at it and seeing, oh, well, this looks kind of interesting. I'm going to see what I'm going to do here. But as the months have gone by, and now we're into 2026, and ChatGPT is a couple years old, it's becoming a bigger and bigger foundation of consumer behavior. And you're seeing, upwards of like, say, 50, 60% of people in surveys saying, yes, I use AI in some way. And when you see that happening in such a quick time frame, you know that this is something that then now marketers need to start catching up to from an external marketing perspective.
Well, what it I think has resulted in, at least from my perspective, is the blurring of lines between product and a consumer experience and marketing as a consumer experience. And it depends obviously on what the intended or business model is in each individual case. But every marketer now needs to understand product in a way that they haven't before. And that is certainly a new mindset that hopefully people are open to in this industry and at a leadership level, but also depends on the environment. So, how much of the AI opportunity is about ads themselves versus context and experience, where and how those ads actually engage or live within?
I think it's both, honestly. I just wrote, so I have a Substack called the AI Ad Economy, and I just recently wrote a whole article about the idea that being present in these environments as marketers organically, in other words, AEO, answer engine optimization, GEO, use the term, whatever term, AI search, whatever it is, being present in those environments organically is incredibly important for brands because people are forming opinions. They're learning about products from the first time all the way to being able to purchase them in these environments based on the things that ChatGPT or AI overviews, you name it, Copilot knows about them. So that's super important. But what's very interesting to me is the layer on top of it, which is the paid advertising. ChatGPT sells advertising. Copilot has advertising. Obviously, Google has advertising within AI overviews and in AI mode. And so marketers need to make sure that they integrate whatever this new growing paid advertising opportunity alongside the very important task of being present organically when someone is searching and looking for something that is related to what they're selling.
Well, in the last iteration of how this all came to be with search, right, there were behaviors and search engines and experiences that happened on Google and Bing. But ultimately, when you were on site, on a brand's website, on a commerce site, a retail site, even content publishers, whatever it may be, they had to adapt to the consumer behavior by creating on-site search. And I think the same thing is going to happen where the behaviors of AI prompting and searching and result engineering and optimization will need to also happen in environments where people are still going. And in some cases where trust is higher. I'm more likely to trust something that happens in an environment or in a branded ecosystem that I already know and have shopped at, as opposed to maybe something new. But now there's a layer of connectivity that may not have existed before. That's, get into the technical terms, right? The protocols that connect these things. But even the behavior around conversational AI can compress discovery and consideration and all that, the funnel, right, into one interaction in one place. So what does that do for traditional funnel marketers and the behaviors that they've learned and grown up building?
Well, I mean, I think we've spent a few years now talking about how the traditional funnel is already broken. So I would hope that smart marketers have already realized that.
But now it's broken again, is what I'm right. Like it's even more compressed.
But you're right. What AI does is it does compress that possibility of getting from awareness to purchase into one complete conversation. And it can be a really short conversation. One example that I like to use is, this actually happened to me a couple of years ago, but it's still really relevant, is I was searching for a new brand of facial moisturizer because the one that I normally purchase at Nordstrom was out of stock. And so I went to ChatGPT and I thought, well, I'll just use this as an opportunity to not only find something similar to the product that I was looking for, but maybe cheaper because the one I was using was kind of expensive. So within about a 15 to 20 minute back and forth with ChatGPT, I became introduced to not one, not two, not three, but 4 brands of moisturizer that I'd never heard of before. I learned about them all. I chose one. I decided that I was going to purchase it. I went to Amazon. I bought it. I'm now a loyal customer of that brand of moisturizer, and I have not gone back to the purchase that I made at Nordstrom for years and years. That's how quick it happens. And I think that's the story that I think marketers need to wrap their heads around.
Well, and they're all still figuring out where and how to leverage human influencers and creators. And now there's yet another influential engine that can drive this. That, again, the speed of this is somewhat staggering. And the speed, I go back to how SEO, right, organic search and paid search took some time to really become more of a unified thought process and strategy for a lot of marketers. I wonder if AEO and paid AI media, I don't know if there's an acronym for that yet. PAIM, not pain, PAIM, maybe, I don't know.
Let's not call it PAIM.
Yeah.
It could be pain for marketers, but
we need pain relief, right? Is that convergence has to be happening much faster than paid search and paid social did, right?
Absolutely. And yes, by the way, so the term that I like to use is AI media. So think
Okay.
about social media, think of retail media. Let's talk about it as AI media. Now, when I talk about AI media, just to put a definition around it, I define AI media as an ad-supported experience inside an AI assistant, an AI-enhanced search, or AI native interface, but eventually actually AI agents as well. But these are places where people ask questions, research, and make decisions. And so when I think about AI media and I talk about that as a term, this is what I'm referring to. But you're right, the transition from organic to paid is happening much faster in AI than it happened in previous digital transformations. So if you think about going back to search and even the days of the earliest websites started in 1994. And then 4 years later, in 1998, Google came around and people went and realized, oh, well, we need to actually be present in these search engines like Google. So search engine optimization became a thing. It wasn't until 2 years later in 2000 when Google introduced paid advertising. So companies had basically a span of 6 years to get used to, hey, I have a website, now I need to advertise it. And then if you look at social, a similar thing happened. So Facebook launched in 2004. A few years later, we started to see organic, brand pages. They introduced brand pages, and I think it was around 2007. You might remember that. You might have built a few brand pages back in the day.
Rings a bell, yeah.
Yes. So it was all about being organic and realizing, oh gosh, I could use a platform like Facebook to talk to my customers. And then, lo and behold, 5 years after that, in 2012, Facebook kind of said, let's not let you do that so much anymore. We're going to turn down the reach of your organic material and start making you buy advertising. And it started introducing feed ads, coincidentally, the same year in 2012. So brands did have a long period of time to go from, okay, here's what Facebook is. Let's build brand presence. Let's buy advertising. Let's look at ChatGPT. ChatGPT launched to 2022. A couple years later, we've all started talking about answer engine optimization. 2026, less than 4 years after ChatGPT's launched, it's starting to test advertising. There's the compression right there. This is how fast, getting back to the start of our conversation, this is how fast things are moving in this business.
I think the flip side to that speed, right? There's a lot of opportunity and positive value that comes of it. There's also risk for brands, right? Because it's still a work in progress in many cases in terms of accuracy. It's getting better, and that speed is increasing and accelerating, and the velocity of adoption is increasing. But the risk of brands being diluted or conquested or rendered obsolete because they're not optimizing the right way is also much faster or accelerating more quickly. So how do you think about brands protecting from AI? And is there a way that they can protect from AI with AI?
That's a big question. So I think what I'll start by saying is that what I think everybody has learned in the past couple of years of doing or starting to think about and activate on answer engine optimization is it's really complicated. It's not like search. It's like
Yeah.
search on steroids because you have multiple platforms that each interpret information a different way, whether it's Gemini or Copilot or Perplexity or ChatGPT, for example. Each of them has a different way of looking and ingesting information. It goes to different sources. You have to deal with that. And then you have to consider that the queries are going to be different. If I say to a ChatGPT, show me the best running shoes for trail running, it might give me one response. But if I just tweak it a little bit and I say, I'm interested in starting to learn trail running, help me understand what shoes might be appropriate for me for that. It interprets that context differently, and it's not necessarily going to show you the same results. So it becomes this huge task, ongoing task for businesses to make sure that they stay relevant. And I don't think anybody's really figured out the right formula yet.
Well, and even differentiated, right? Because if everything becomes, well, risks becoming sort of a reversion to the mean, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it in a way, but does brand matter anymore? Or is everything just like Amazon basics, right? Batteries. It's all just batteries, right? In terms of
Yeah.
what the value is. So that's the threat and the opportunity for brands to differentiate themselves, whether it's organically or through AI media, boosting to get above a generic result, right?
Absolutely. And I think that is one of the potential powers of AI media. I mean, we're early, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that this is exactly going to happen like I think it is, but I think there is a potential for brands to either use paid advertising on platforms like ChatGPT to boost what the platform already says about them. Kind of like the platform is an influencer, like the ChatGPT is an influencer and you're boosting the influencer's content.
Mm-hmm.
Or to actually maybe even subtly change the narrative or provide a different viewpoint if for some reason what the ChatGPT says about you isn't exactly how you want to be perceived. Another thing, and then thinking outside of these platforms, I think that there's going to be a way to use paid advertising on other platforms outside of ChatGPT, and it's going to be ingested in some way into how these platforms start to think about you. So there's going to be a lot of ways I think that paid advertising becomes an important tool to help companies not only be relevant, but like to your point, to differentiate as consumers are starting these journeys and figuring out and gravitating towards AI platforms to solve like everyday issues.
Some AI platforms are obviously embracing ads, some are resisting them. There will be a reckoning as the economy plays out, as is always the case. But the accessibility and acceleration of this technology means that other players may evolve quickly too. And even, Walmart is an AI platform. Like, sorry, but it is. And people may not think of it that way, but it is. So as everyone kind of becomes more AI savvy and then AI led, not just AI powered, which is a term I hate, but actually AI led, what is the sort of divergence between those who are embracing monetization, media models, platform economics versus those that aren't? Like, what does it tell you about where the ecosystem may land?
Marketers have a lot of learning to do about AI.
Okay.
Going back to this idea that they're still figuring out how to incorporate AI into their organizations, internally in their day-to-day processes, we're still at the earliest stages of that. And there's surveys that keep coming out that say, companies aren't embracing AI as quickly as they should, and there's things are happening that are getting ahead of companies. And then there's a few companies that are saying, oh, we've embraced AI so completely that we're going to fire half of our company because we don't need them anymore. there's a lot of kind of internal dynamics that are still being developed within businesses. And we know, you and I have been in the marketing industry for a long time. New media formats come along, and there's a few companies that go out and decide, I'm gonna test this. I'm ready. I think I'm gonna go out and test this. But many other companies take a lot longer to embrace it because they kind of got to get their internal organizational stuff in order before they can start to think about, okay, how do I actually layer this media on in at scale? Or maybe they're waiting for the early adopters to play around for a while and make the mistakes and
The
get the
fast followers
learnings.
can win, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I think I've kind of gotten a little bit aside from your, off track from your question, but uh, the companies that I think are going to have the advantage in this are the ones that are going to be simultaneously working on improving their internal use of AI in their marketing organizations, but also keeping close tabs on how their consumers are changing. Are they still going to Google? Are they not? Are they using social media less? Are they listening to influencers less? I'm making these scenarios up, but things that people should pay attention to. Are these influencers become less important because ChatGPT is becoming more of an influencer in their lives? Those are the kinds of things that I think will help marketers to, if they pay attention to them, will help them to become better and more integrated, across both internal and external when it comes to AI.
Yeah, I remember in the early days visiting the Facebook new headquarters when it opened up in Menlo Park. They had signs on the wall of probably like Mark Zuckerbergisms, and one was fail fast, right? So the faster you fail, the faster you learn. And again, excitement and risk, both two sides of the same coin. There are mistakes that early AI media adopters will make, and there's a cost of waiting too long to experiment in AI-driven media environments. I think finding that balance is going to be different for everyone, and it may come down to what your business objectives and model is on one hand, and what your audience and consumer needs are on the other, which is still marketing 101. In our world, in my world, I think about publishers and retailers and consumer platforms who are all wondering how AI affects their traffic. Does no one come to our site anymore? Or engagement, like, are these real? Or is this genuine? But also monetization. So do you see from one of their vantage points a real opportunity for someone to kind of step in? Like, are retailers going to be the ones that drive this forward? Is it content and publishers who lead the way that others follow from a business model perspective?
Well, I mean, I think from a paid advertising standpoint, I think the first types of companies that should be advertising in AI media would be retailers. And I think we've seen that borne out in some of the early advertisers on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Travel being another category. I think, electronics being a third category based on really heavy consumer usage of these platforms to research, an electronics purchase or a new phone or something like that. So these are the kinds of companies that I think should move first. And but I think when you think about it on site too, you mentioned Walmart earlier, Amazon, obviously, Amazon has Rufus, Walmart has Sparky. They are integrating AI into the experience of using those platforms, which I think is really smart. So I think on-site and on-platform experiences of AI are actually going to be really important. Not only because these companies can very easily integrate them, but also these are places where people are comfortable with, right? Like, we all shop at Amazon. We kind of know what it's like to shop at Amazon. We're not making a new behavior necessarily to maybe say ask Rufus a question in the same way that it's a new behavior to go like externally to ChatGPT. So I feel like, and I've seen, we've seen data about this. I can't remember who, unfortunately, but a lot of, there's more and more purchases on Amazon are incorporating conversations with Rufus in some way. And I think Walmart is seeing some similar traction with Sparky and its impact on purchasing. So having these on-site experiences in retail destinations, I think, is really powerful. And it probably extends into publishers as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Walmart and Amazon are the biggest and have the most resource and capital to commit to these types of not just experiments, but actual like investments and bets and infrastructure change. I think the opportunity, to your point, of building on site may not be as quick, but this is, as a partner that can provide those services, I think you're right, and I know you're right because we've got the data to prove it. But the data is also a good question that I think others are going to start asking. I have an answer, but I'm curious what yours is, because if clicks or site visits are important, or engagement is important, or maybe not, or is being cannibalized, what becomes the new performance signal that marketers should care about?
Metrics is a big question. Yes, you're right. I mean, if you're engaging with an AI experience on site, you automatically have the benefit of that, of the metrics that come from that, directly from that site,
Zero
right?
party data, we call it, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, and I think that gives these platforms a really strong advantage in terms of who owns the customer. Um, where it gets tricky is the referrals from a ChatGPT, the referrals from an AI overview, the referrals from a Copilot or whatever, and how do you win and how do you attribute that? These are the things that are all still very much in development.
Trust is a topic that comes up a lot in AI conversations. It's paramount to what we've built and why we've built what we've built, and it keeps coming up. I read your newsletter. I love it. It keeps coming up in your research. How are consumers balancing curiosity about AI with the skepticism, especially around advertising and branded content?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of layers to the trust question in AI, and some of it stems from, do I trust that these AI companies have my human best interests in mind, or is AI going to just suddenly take over and dominate the world? I mean, these are kind of big existential questions that people are confronting when they're using an AI platform or thinking about the power of AI. So there's trust on that level, which I think is something that everybody needs to get comfortable with, right? Do you think that these are going to get so smart that they are going to, take away the humanity, or they're going to start interacting and engaging with themselves, and humans are going to be, kind of left to the side? Kind of getting big and philosophical with you for a moment here, but the thing that I think, coming down to the brand trust level and coming down to the trust in terms of things that people typically care about, on a more granular level, which is like privacy, data. Is it going to hallucinate? These are sort of the more practical types of trust. I liken this back to some research I did on social media when I was an analyst at eMarketer, and we literally called it a digital trust report. We surveyed people about their trust in different social media platforms and their level of trust, and we created a ranking. And lo and behold, very few people trusted social media platforms to protect their privacy, to make them feel safe, to show them information that was accurate. So every year we publish this report saying, oh my gosh, trust is, brands, be aware of this. But what ended up happening was that didn't stop people from using social platforms. Every year the usage kept going up. And maybe a few people stopped using because of this trust concern, but overall, looking, writ large at the consumer behavior, people are still using social media. So bringing it back to AI, the reason I tell that story is because I think this is similar things going to happen with AI. People are going to be concerned about their privacy. They are going to be concerned about hallucinations. They are concerned about the idea that that AI might give them misinformation. They might be concerned about their data and what happens to it. I don't think we're going to see people pulling back. in grand scale from this. I only think more and more people are going to realize the benefits of using AI, and it's going to increase.
Yeah, I think to the conversation or the points we made earlier, even if it's not in the environments where they're currently engaging as an offsite dedicated AI experience, if the technology gets better but becomes more ingrained into and integrated into existing trusted brand experiences, right? I shop with my daughter at Sephora, and Sephora has an incredible back engine of AI curated content and commerce enabled experiences. I will continue to trust Sephora if the technology delivers in that example. So I think it comes back to the environment again, as we were talking about earlier. So
Absolutely.
okay,
I
so one
agree.
last question before I let you go, and thank you again for just this incredible wisdom and knowledge here. As we think ahead, I don't want to say 5 years because, God, who knows? But maybe 18 months to 2 years. What about AI marketing will feel obvious then that still feels uncertain today?
It's just even 18 months is a hard thing to
Okay,
look at.
you pick the
Things move
time
so
frame.
quickly.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
glad you didn't ask me about 5 years
Yeah,
because you can't you could try to predict 5 years, but
yeah.
I followed social for a long time. Social changed every single year, and something new happened. So I knew you could try to predict what was going to happen 5 years from now, but you really were best to predict maybe what was happen 1 year from now. With AI, I could even predict 6 months. But let me try. Let me just try the 18-month thing, just for fun. I think first of all, I think we're all going to be in realization that showing up organically in AI is a lot harder than it looks, and hopefully it's going to be something that companies have developed. A few companies now stand out. 18 months from now, hopefully, a few companies now stand out as the ones that actually have figured it out. Right now it's like 1,000 companies are trying to sell you your AEO services. So we're probably going to have a few companies that are going to be the ones who are like, yeah, okay, we know what to do here. It's difficult, but we've kind of cracked that nut. So that's one thing. I think that we'll see paid advertising on AI media become something where, in the US, maybe a couple $1 billion is being spent. I mean, I've seen
Just prevalent,
forecasts of like 30
right?
billion by
Yeah.
2030. It may not ramp up that as quickly as that because of a lot of the underlying factors that we've talked about, but it's definitely growing, and it has a long ramp ahead of it. If you look at the growth of social media, the first several years of social media was basically very, very small until companies like Facebook really figured out how to create an ad product that made advertisers go, oh, okay, now I really need that. And they took away organic reach. But that's the kind of thing that I think is going to be happening. Finally, I think the thing I'll say is, we don't know necessarily. We spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about ChatGPT. We don't know if ChatGPT is going to be the winner in this space. I don't think we can say right now, 18 months from now, that ChatGPT is going to be the leader. Social media, we all talked about MySpace back in the day, and then Facebook came along, and who the heck was MySpace? So I don't necessarily think that we can rule out like Google. We've hardly mentioned the name Google in this entire conversation, which we should have, but we can't rule out Google. Google has the infrastructure, the knowledge, the advertiser relationships, the technology, and all of that to, I think, stand out. So if I were to guess, it's going to be Google and ChatGPT kind of vying for the top spot when it comes to AI media.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's then set a date. We can always move it up or back where we revisit this. But I'm sure in the meantime, in between now and then, you will continue to provide us with near real time, if not real time updates as to the leaders, fast followers, and all the changes that keep taking place at a staggering rate. So, Debra, thank you so much for being here. So I want people to follow or subscribe to the AI Ad Economy, right? That's the newsletter. I love it. It was about weekly, once a week or every
weekly,
other.
yep.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
weekly on Substack, also available on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Okay. Substack and LinkedIn. We know them well. So thank you for this and for helping us make another genuine connection.